Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vedic religion. Why a separate caste? If you say, okay, we agree about the power of the Vedas, but why should we need a separate caste for learning and chanting it? There are many reasons why. Firstly, Vedas are not to be written and read. They have to be got by heart by recitation only. Then they have to be taught to the next generation. This cannot be done if you take up another profession to pursue. So much time is required. Not only Vedas, it is his job to learn and teach other Shastras too. It is the job of the Brahmin to learn all Shastras and crafts and teach subtleties of those crafts to people who have that art or craft as their profession. He has this responsibility to nurture the society's knowledge, base, and culture. He is required to learn portions of the Vedas concerning other professions, such as even the fighting art of Dhanurveda, and teach those who have that profession hereditarily. Despite this wide knowledge, he is not supposed to do and make a living out of it, say the Shastras. He is to teach others their profession, but he cannot take up that as his profession. However easy or profitable it may be, Veda Adhyayanam, self-study and chanting, and Adhyapakam, teach and make them do, only are his jobs. He is to abide by very stringent rules of abnegation and abstinence as required for obtaining the powers of the mantras. By strict control of the tongue, he is to preserve with a minimum of food and live in a hut. He should not earn money by other means, so as to guard against becoming a victim of greed and desires of the senses. Accumulating wealth cannot and should not be his aim. As a great practitioner of sacrifice, he should live the life of dispassion, solely devoting all his time for the welfare of the society, protecting the Vedas. To protect the Brahmin from dying of hunger is the job of others. He should be looked after by providing him the minimum wherewithal. He should be enabled to collect the necessary requirements for conduct of his yagyas and other rituals. In other jobs, we pay a weekly or monthly salary. We pay the cost of an item purchased. We do this in appreciation of the services rendered or the value of the material. Similarly, the society should pay back for what the Brahmin does for the social welfare by way of Veda Samrakshanam and Yaga Karma Anushtanas. In this, also the Shastras do not ask us to give him a palace or loads of money. He has to be paid for a simple livelihood and material or cash for conduct of yagas and rituals. He is not to aspire for luxury in his personal life. He is to starve his senses of worldly pleasures and thereby attain to the powers of mantra siddhi for others' well-being. Now, let me give you the reason why I have been saying that the Brahmin is to get the Vedas committed to memory by hearing and chanting and not by writing. Since we need the Veda Shabdam resounding in the atmosphere, we are not to print them as books. Neither is it needed nor is it to be done. Once the Vedas are published as books, daily chanting and committing it to memory will go. I have no doubt about this. After all, what we need to know is in the books. So why should we take pains to commit it to memory? Whenever we have doubts, we can refer to the books. Why should we waste our time and energy? That will become the attitude. The deep involvement required will vanish. I will give you a recently noted phenomenon. The man required to do obsequies for the fourth caste people was known as Panjagakaran. By his name arises this misunderstanding. Actually, his job was to read and tell the daily almanac known as Panchagam. What is a Panchagam? Each day has 5 parts, Aind Angangal, namely Tithi, Varam, Nakshatram, Yogam, and Karnam. Tithi stands for the number of the day after full or new moon. Varam is the day of the week. Varam is the day of the week. Nakshatram is the star ascendant in the sky that day. Yogam stands for Amrita, Siddha, and Marana Yoga timings every day. Karnam gives us Ragu, Kuligai, Yamakandam timings during that particular day. We will discuss more about this Shastra of Jyotishma later separately. To decide as to what can be done and what is not to be done every day, we should know these 5 things. Today, astrology is big science. Till as recently as 3 or 4 generations back, this Panjagakaran in each village was a master of such calculations. Without a computer or calculator, what this villager could do could make a modern astrological physicist wonder with awe. He did this with the help of Jyotisha Shastram. He used to write the day's 5 important information of Tithi, Varam, Nakshatram, Yoga and Karnam timings on small piece of palm leaf. The palm leaf was called Chuvadi, and since his palm leaf was of one sheet only, the man himself was called Kuttai Chuvadi, meaning something like the one leaf man. Since the Jyotisha Shastram could be a huge affair, the allusion was to the size of the palm leaf in his hands rather than his stature. He was also known as Panjagakaran because of this. Today, if the Panchagakaran and his ilk have forgotten this capability, what is the reason? Printing press came. Instead of studying the Jyotish Shastra for working out the Panchagam for each day, books were published for the whole year. The original root Shastra, which was to be committed to memory by practicing every day, has been forgotten and lost track of. The Panjagakaran of today not only does not know his speciality, but he does not know as to why he has this name either. This we see that what was common knowledge has become inaccessible. Jyotisham is a portion of the Vedas and Panchagam is a subset of Jyotisham. That knowledge is disappearing and going by default. Had the rest of the Vedas been printed, the same fate could have overtaken them. The world would have been denied the chances for redemption whatsoever. Our forefathers were very much aware of this hazard. The person writing and reading the Vedas was called Adaman, that is, the renegade. In Tamil, the Vedas were known as Erudik Kiravi, meaning unwritten scriptures. In Sanskrit, Vedas are known as Shruti, meaning the heard. Since it was spoken by the mouth and heard by the ear and committed to memory, it was not a part time job but a whole time profession. One man chanted each padam and the students repeated twice, called Sandai. The sound of each chanting spread in the whole atmosphere. Thus, for many thousands of years, the Veda Shabdam has been going on resounding up to the start of the 21st century by mouth and ear only. If we destroy this eons old tree of knowledge by our short sightedness, there can be no greater sin than that. Once Vedas are gone, there is no need for Brahmins anymore. As we hear nowadays, Brahmins get out. Do we hear ever barber get out or bootmaker get out? Instead, if they collectively make a walkout, the society will run after them, begging them to return, because the society thinks that they are useful. As long as the Brahmin was simply doing his duties, Without much of pomp and show, others noted that there was benefit for the society by his actions. They had love, respect for, and in turn, they cared for him. The society was also comparatively better off. People were aware that his actions were not oriented towards personal selfishness, but for the good of the society at large. Other than the general benefits accruing from his actions, he was a personal example to individuals. He was a role model for others to emulate. They noticed that here was a set of people who were uniformly peaceful with strict control over desires, quiet and unagitated, ever kindly to all living beings, including animals, ever chanting or murmuring some shloka or doing japa, never being narrow minded, doing their duties uncomplainingly with no apparent noticeable immediate returns. Just to look at them was a lesson in behavior and attitude. Just by looking and interacting with him, people automatically inculcated some of the qualities of personal and mental cleanliness and devotion towards God. To the extent possible in their life, too, they tried to bring in some discipline, took up fasting on certain days, tried to adopt some of the rituals. To say that the Brahmin was dominating and controlling other castes is a total lie. Just because others were not to do Veda Adhyanam does not mean that the Brahmin was over dominating others. I mentioned that to take care of Vedas is a lifetime job. I also said that any job should go down to the next generation by heredity, as otherwise it will lead no competition followed by hatred. Once we accept Veda Shamrakshanam as a profession, if we let others do the same job, it can only create confusion in the social order. I also said that each job is important and that there is no superiority or inferiority per se in the profession. Having made all these points, I want to clarify that the restriction for others is that they are not required to do Veda Adhyanam, but there is no bar in others learning the important principles of Veda and especially Upanishads. Actually, they should and they did in the past. Upper and Namma Alavar songs are clear indication of the fact that non-Brahmins were very much aware of the deep truths of the Vedas. If it is true that Brahmins were monopolizing the Vedas and kept the other castes suppressed, not only an upper or Nammalvar but three-fourths of Nayanamars and Alvars, great Shaivites and Vaishnavites, devotees of Shiva and Vishnu, respectively, who existed in Tamil Nadu between the 7th BC and 13th centuries AD, could not have happened to exist at all. They could not have been such supreme devotees of God without knowing the subtle teachings of Vedas that they are revered even now, so many centuries later. Nayanamars and Alvars are revered by the common man by elevating them as equal to divinity, that their statues are kept in the temples and prayed to. There have been other Siddhas or Swamiyas, not all of them Brahmins. Even recently there has been Ramalinga Swamigal, Vallalar, Pundi Swamigal and Narayana Guru of Yeravas and many other. Not only there have been great saintly devotees, but like Shivaji, there have been great kings and leaders from the fourth caste who have done yeoman service for religion's revival when Sammanam and Buddhism had overshadowed the Hindu religion. The so-called suppression and exploitation of other castes by Brahmins are fabrications of recent times only. I am not saying that There were no aberrations. It is only natural that there could be some individual bad exceptions. But we all know that exceptions only prove the rule. Generally, invariably, since Brahmins did everything for the society's well being and were friend, guide, and philosopher rolled into one for the common man, for centuries he was revered and respected. Now he seems to have outlived his usefulness to the society and he is being told to get out with a slogan Parpane Veliyere, meaning Brahmins get out, without a purpose, merely as a competitor when he is also running after money. There is no need for the caste of Brahmins to exist anymore whatsoever. I feel like destroying the Brahmin caste myself before others do. If he is to remain without a purpose, there is no right of existence for anything without utility. Without utility, the Brahmin caste has no logic to exist, not required. In many towns, we have toll gate areas. It used to be the area where gates existed and tolls were collected. Now, neither is there a gate nor any tax is being collected. Only the name toll gate remains. Exactly. Similarly, Brahmin without Veda Adhyanam and Adhyapakam is only a namesake Brahmin. What can be the grounds for his retaining the name? The present day Brahmin, if he expects some special privileges and regards, he should be censured. But the censure and criticism should be just. You could censure the Brahmin for the fact that he is ignoring his dharma. But to be critical of the very dharma is just not justified. People of the society should do their best to relaunch the derailed Brahminism on its rails. For this, everybody should cooperate in mind and kind. For the world's well-being, Vedas should be protected. The society should develop the mindset that there should be some people solely hereditarily meant for Veda Samrakshanam. As Brahmin has defaulted and let his sole job go to ruin, if others also lose faith in Vedas, then there is no logic to be critical of Brahmin anymore. If you say that there is no need for Vedas anymore, that will be a justification of the Brahmin's deviation. He also has to find a livelihood. He has to compare like anyone else. So, the demand that there should neither be the Veda Dharmam nor should the Brahmin come to other professions is not justifiable. That is not rationalism. If you hold the view that Vedas are all cock and bull story and that Brahmin should not follow his profession of Veda Samrakshanam, then in the same breath you cannot hate the Brahmin for entering other professions. Even people who do not believe in religions cannot say, let him starve to death. Humanness does not let even an animal or ant die of hunger. The best help the society can render is to make the Brahmin do his original job as before. I have heard some time back some Brahmins used to go to the slums saying, let us become one. The slum dwellers would say, no, no, Swami, please you do your job only and we will stick to ours. That is the best for you as well as ourselves. Please don't come here. Saying so, they would break their only possessions of mud pots in the way so as to make it difficult for people to walk over it. Despite avoiding physical proximity, they had love in their hearts and, most importantly, had the gut feeling that each should do their own allotted jobs for the well being of the society. Such was the high level of practical common sense even in those poor people. Even now, the common man is still held to a deep sense of religiousness and belief in the Veda Dharmam. I am of the opinion that this common sense will never go. The tirade against Brahmanism is more politically motivated than being real. People still believe and have reverence to Vedas, yagas, and religious rituals. A small change in the Brahmin's attitude and behavior could make a remarkable change in the overall response of the society towards him and his caste. Without looking forward to being supported with the firm conviction that he is on the right lines, the Brahmin should be even prepared to die in carrying out his duties as detailed in the Vedas. Whatever others may so or do, praise or criticism for their sake, he must save, guard, and mutually nourish and be nourished by the Vedas. All these days, whatever I have been telling the Brahmins are only for the sake of the society. There is much that I have to tell the other strata of society. They are also keen to hear them. If I make it clear, lovingly they will play their part. But before advising them, I want to ascertain my authority myself. Remember, Perival is also Jagat Guru Shankara Acharya. There is a general opinion that the Brahmin caste is especially beholden to me, whether rightly or wrongly. Maybe because within the Shankara Matam, so many Vaidika ceremonies take place, I may be interacting with this community more. So, before I address the other communities, it occurs to me that they are likely to wonder why is he lecturing us when his own Brahmin community is not abiding with his directions. In reality, if you look deeply, I have greater complaints against the Brahmin's behavior of letting his highly ennobling duties as required by Vedas go by default. That is why I am telling the Brahmins tirelessly, endlessly, that they should restart Veda Samrakshanam with full determination. If there is at the least a minimum response from Brahmins, then only I will be able to tell the other castes their duties. Brahmins should help me in doing this addressing of other castes by relentlessly adhering to their duties of Veda Karma Anushtanas. All people and all living beings may be happy and in good cheer. For mutual benefit, everybody should adhere to their respective dharma without any complex of inferiority or superiority. For the material, financial, and mental well being of all parts of the society, some part of the society should be involved in protecting and nurturing the Veda Shabdam. I told you how there is common benefit in the professions remaining a hereditary responsibility. I started this lecture with the question as to why Veda Samrakshanam should be a separate profession of one set of people. Now, while concluding, let me say, however, mixing of other jobs and professions may take place, Veda Samrakshanam should and must remain a separate hereditary responsibility of a set of people. Om Shri Mahaperiva Sharanam.